Hey everybody, it's Mr. Osborne. I'm making another video for notes on solving systems of three variables with three equations. So this is the second part of your notes on the blue sheet. I know I said I was going to do the orange sheet, but I decided to do the blue sheet because I feel like this is going to be more helpful to you. Just because it's a little harder than the orange sheet is, and I think this is it's better to show the more difficult problem than the easy one. Okay, so again, our first step is to move these equations over. I'll make sure I got the right color here. Got the blue. I'm going to move the first two equations over to the left. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite them here. 3x minus 2y minus 2z equals negative 2. 2x, this is the second equation, minus 2y minus 3z equals negative 3. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not negative 3. That is 10. And again, that brings up an important point. Make sure you rewrite these equations correctly. Double check too. Go back and see, okay, did I write that one correctly? Just double check to make sure, okay, this is 3, this is 2y, this is negative 2z, and this is negative 2. Because that's another big mistake you guys make is just not writing the equation correctly. All right. Actually, let me jump ahead here. All right. So now, again, we've got to make opposites with these equations. Okay. So we got to choose a variable to make an opposite with, and I'm going to go ahead and choose these two y terms here, just because they're both 2y. So I know that all I'm going to have to do is multiply one of them times the negative 1 in order to change them. So I'm going to go ahead and change the bottom one and multiply that times negative 1 so that they will become opposites. Okay, so now I'll rewrite that as negative 2x. Negative 1 times negative 2y is plus 2y now. And then this negative 3z becomes positive. And this 10 becomes negative. And that brings up also another important point. Once you are multiplying a number, multiply every number. Okay, just like we always do in distribution, like you guys learned before in the past. Make sure we multiply every number. Okay, so now I'm going to cross out this equation because we're not using that old one anymore, because we just made the second equation into a new one so that we can eliminate those variables. So again, the 2y and the negative 2y cancel out because they're opposites. Oops, sorry. Let's put this here. Now we're going to add everything else together. Okay, so now we've got 3x minus 2x, that becomes x, and then negative 2z plus 3z, that is just z, or 1z, and then negative 2 minus 10 equals negative 12. And that's going to be our first new equation. We're going to call that equation number 4. Okay, let's go over to the right side. We're going to move over equation 2 and 3. And now we're going to rewrite them like always. Minus 3z equals 10. This computer's getting a little hot. It's burning my leg. Sorry, I had to move it a little bit. Okay, so negative x minus 2y plus z equals 18. Now, I've got to make opposites here. Now, here's a key thing. I may not have mentioned this in the last video. I think I did, but just to make sure I reiterate it again. You've got to eliminate the same variable. Over on this left side, I eliminated the the y variable. That means I'm going to have to eliminate the y variables on this side as well. Okay, you can't just choose to eliminate y over here and just decide to eliminate x or z on this side. It has to be the same variable y. Okay, so I'm going to have to change one of these so that if they're the opposite of the other. So I'm going to go ahead and change the bottom equation and multiply it times negative 1 just like I did on the other side. So now I'm going to end up with x plus 2y minus z, z becomes negative, and the 18 becomes negative 18. So now we get rid of that equation and we work with our new one, and right away we can see that obviously we made opposites, so that goes away. Did that on purpose. Add up the rest. 2x plus x is 3x. Negative 3 plus negative z, sorry, negative 3z plus negative z is negative 4z. And then 10 minus 18 is negative 18. And that's going to be equation number 5. Okay, so we're going to move it. Let me zoom out a little bit so you guys can still see the steps as we go. Okay, so now I'm going to bring down number 4 and bring down number 5 and write them here. Oop. Let me make sure you guys know that that is not a z. I'm sorry, not a 2, but it's a z. And that's another thing too is, you know, make sure that when you're writing out the letters, especially when it comes to z and 2, that you are clearly distinguishing the two so that you know the difference. So that you know that it's not 2 or that it's not z. Okay, so now 3x, I'm going to rewrite equation 5 here. Alright. Now, I need to change one of these in order for it to be the opposite of the other. Now, the top equation has smaller variables than the bottom one, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply this top one. And I think I'm going to go ahead and eliminate the z's here, just because they're already positive and negative, so I know I don't have to multiply it times a negative or anything like that. So if I'm going to eliminate these z's, I'm going to have to multiply the top one times 4 so that I get opposite 4 z's. Okay, so now distribute across. Remember, distribute to every number, and I'm going to rewrite that equation right below number 5. So this becomes 4x. Then, and just so you know, like I'm moving this new equation down to the bottom now. Okay, and then 4 times z is just 4z. And then 4 times negative 12 is negative 48. Okay. And then now we're going to add those two together. As we were trying to do in the first place, we eliminate those opposites there. That was the goal. Now, I'm going to add, I'm going to add 3x and 4x, so that will give you 7x. And then I'm going to add negative 8 minus negative 48. So that's just two negatives that make a bigger negative, so that's negative 56. And just so there's no confusion, this little mark over here was a mistake, so that's not like part of your equation. Another thing too, and I'll kind of show you, just as far as organization goes, make sure you're doing your equal signs, you're writing your equal signs in a straight line down as you're lining up, you know, your steps. When you do that, that also eliminates mistakes as well. Because if you got your equal signs and they're kind of like flowing down like this in a weird kind of pattern, then you know that's cause for mistakes as well. Okay, so just another note to keep in mind when doing these equations. All right, so now the last step here, after we eliminate the z variable, is to just solve for the x. So we're going to divide both sides by 7 and end up with negative 56 divided by 7 is just negative 8. And we've got our first variable. Sweet. All right, now the first thing is I'm going to plug this negative 8 into 4 or 5 into our new equations, because remember, you can't plug it into the first ones, you got to plug it into the second ones. Okay, so let's get the other color. So I'm going to use equation 4 because it looks easy. You probably didn't notice that, but I had to pause for a second. My son woke up, so I had to say hi to him. So where was I? Okay, so we found x. We found what x is equal to. So now we're going to substitute that back into equation number 4 or 5. So I'm going to plug it in right there. Okay. let's rewrite that. So that's negative 8 plus z equals negative 12. And then we're going to add 8 to both sides to get rid of the 8. And this is z is equal to, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cross that out. I didn't mean to cross this out here. That doesn't go away. So that's negative 12. We're adding 8 there. So negative 12 plus 8 is negative 4. And that's our second variable. Now we're going to do the last step. The last step is to plug in both of these variables into one of the original equations. We have to choose one. So I think I'm going to do the number 3. So let's write that over here. So number 3, and I always write substitute, just so that I remember this is the last step. So we're going to do that into equation 3, which is x, or negative x minus 2y plus z equals 18. Okay, so now we're going to plug in that negative 8 right there. Don't forget that negative that's in front of that negative 8. And then we're looking for y, so we don't need to write y. And then plug in z, which is negative 4 equals 18. Alright, and just solve for y. Okay, so now this first one, negative times negative 8, that becomes positive 8. Alright, and then positive times negative 4, that's just negative 4. And then combine the terms, 8 minus 4 will be 4, plus 4. And then we got to subtract 4 from this side. And then we're left with negative 2y. Don't forget that negative. Like I said, that's where we make those mistakes. I see this all the time, right here, especially on the y term or the x term. Sorry about that. My son wanted to point out that Stephen Curry's on the TV. That's all good though. Okay, so now we're going to subtract 18 minus 4, which is 14, and divide both sides by negative 2 to get rid of that. And then y is equal to 14 divided by negative 2 is negative 7. So now our variables are negative 8, x, negative 7y, and negative 4, z. Okay? And the very last step that we got to do is we got to double check our work. Okay? Always double check your work. Now, I'm not going to do this problem over here. We did do that in class, but I'm just doing this one just to demonstrate. So the first problem was 3x minus 2y. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to just a little quicker, actually. Alright, so let's zoom in on these three equations that we have. Now remember, our variables are negative. Okay, turn off the eraser. And the variables are negative 8, negative 7. Right? What was that? Yes, negative 7 and negative 4. Negative 7 and negative 4. And you're going to go through, plug in each of those values into your x's and y's for each equation. Remember, don't just do 1 or 2. Do all 3. And then check your work. So just to demonstrate, I'm going to do this real quick, just for one of them. I know these answers are correct, but I just want to kind of demonstrate. So plug in the negative 8 here. That's negative 24. So negative 24. And then plug in the negative 7. So it's negative 7 times negative 2, which is plus 14. And then the last one is negative 4 times negative 2, which is plus 8. And then so negative 24 plus 14 is negative 10 plus 8 is negative 2. So that one works. And you would go through and again and check all of these. Okay, so you got to check this one and you got to check this one as well. Even though I know that worked for the first one, it's got to work for all of them. Okay? All right. That's